In this episode, I'm sitting down with Filipe Masetti. He's a journalist and a filmmaker who rode more than 27,000 kilometers on horseback. 8 years, 12 countries, and the decision to keep going when most people would have turned back. At 3 kilometers an hour, life looks different. Leadership becomes whether your horse trusts you. Fear becomes something you ride with, not around. And when you finally reach the destination, you're left to answer a harder question. Who are you without the journey?
Dear Horse World, it's Filipe Masetti.
Filipe, welcome to the Dear Horse World podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Okay, so this is like kind of a surreal moment for me because I watched your documentary and I read about what you did before I even started the podcast.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, by the way.
What?
It means the world for watching.
Oh, of course.
It was so hard to make. When people watch it, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and I think as someone who's done when you do production and when you put your heart and soul into something, I understand what you mean when you say thank you.
Yeah.
Because you do want people to be impacted and to feel what you experience and what you're trying to offer as a story.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine the amount of work that went into that documentary.
Yes, no.
But it's surreal because when I wrote down who I wanted to have in the studio, you were at the top of the list.
No way.
But I had no idea how I was gonna whether we were ever gonna cross paths. Right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to have you here.
Well, let me tell you what, a big part of my life and what I believe is if you write it down,
yes,
it becomes true. That's the first step, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're live at NFR and you are working here.
Mm-hmm.
So people get to experience you as a host.
Yes, ma'am.
This is really cool. And this is something you've been doing for a while?
Yeah, so I studied broadcast journalism. That's what I went to school for. I've always loved storytelling. I was a kid at the parties with a random camera for no reason, just filming everyone for no reason. And loved telling stories, loved writing. So that's how I paid for the trip, which we're going to talk about. I didn't have any money, so I sold the project to a production company. And they paid me to undertake the journey. And then when I finished, I always knew I would go back to rodeo because I grew up rodeoing, roping, and I didn't know in which manner, but it just kind of became natural to go into the broadcast side of it, and I love it. Okay.
I want to ask you said something about when you write it down.
Yeah.
You believe that has an impact. Did you write, walk us through when you wrote down that you wanted to. And so for everyone who's listening and watching that hasn't seen Filipe's documentary, we're going to include the link in the show notes. But Filipe rode from Alaska to Argentina.
Yes,
it took him 8 years and it's 27,000 kilometers.
Yes, ma'am.
With over 11 horses.
Wow, you're good.
So when I want you to tell us and take us back to when you wrote that down.
Yeah. Yeah, first of all, thanks for getting the facts right. It's crazy. I do so many interviews and with big journalists and they're like, and then he rode the same way back to Alaska. And it's no one ever gets it right. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So today I love reading books on neuroscience and neurological studies. And they prove that when you write something down, the chances of it becoming real are much higher. But when I was a kid at 23, that was the first step I took, not knowing the importance of it. But first thing I did was I had this dream in me to go on a long ride because of a book my dad used to read to me when I was a kid. And I loved horses. And I was like, man, can you imagine today to do that and film everything and do a doc? You have to go into people's homes. But I also had a lot of fear, right? When you think about these things, when you think about your dreams, there's always that little voice that's you're going to die. Don't do it. Stay here, get a job. So the first big step I took was not leaving Calgary with that horse and the pack horse. It was writing it down. It was putting that fear aside and taking this dream that was inside of Filipe and sharing it with the world. And then it was real. It was no longer a dream. It became a project.
So you spoke it.
I spoke it into existence.
Loud.
Yeah. So what I did was I went on Instagram didn't exist yet. I went on Facebook. This is 2010. I'm in my last year of university and I write, I'm going to ride a horse I was living in Toronto at the time. I thought I was going to leave from Toronto, Canada to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I look at that and I'm like, man, people are going to judge me so hard. I'm like, do I post this or not? And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Bam, I posted. And people started commenting, "You're crazy, like it's impossible, you're gonna die. Filipe, you're using drugs." Like no one could believe that this kid was gonna, take on one of the most arduous journeys ever. But at that moment, it became real. And then I built my war room, and then I started, writing everything down on the wall. First thing I wrote on my wall was "Do not die." And then I started making lists, everything I needed, everything I had to get. And then 2 years later, I was at the Calgary Stampede with a sorrel and Palomino, beginning the journey.
How did you pick those horses? Because I mean,
yeah.
I'm imagining when you think about and I love you call it your war room.
Yes, ma'am.
When you're putting together the vision for that trip,
Yeah.
like, I could totally understand the first thing you say is don't die.
Yeah.
But the second thing would be like, okay, the horses have never been a more important thing in your, like the horses all of a sudden, horses are at the center of all of our lives.
Yes, ma'am.
But when you do something like that, your horses become everything.
Yeah.
So walk us through the process of choosing those horses.
Yeah. So I didn't choose the horses. The universe did. God, I didn't have money. Again, I had no money to do this. So a huge part of it was getting sponsorship. And I very quickly realized no one was going to give me the money I needed to buy the horses. So I needed to get ranches to give me the horses. So during those 2 years, I'm talking to ranches everywhere. First, I'm like, I'm going to go with mules. No one wanted to give me a mule. Then it's like, okay, I know quarter horses. I know some people in the quarter horse world. Let's try to find a ranch. So I find 2 ranches out of Montana that give me Frenchie and Bruiser, but they weren't the right horses to do this. Like Bruiser was a dash for cash, like a super slick horse for like running barrows, like super thin, like super small, like bones, little hooves. And Frenchie hadn't been ridden in years. So I met those horses 7 days before I left the Calgary Stampede. Wow. Frenchie bucked like one of these horses we see at the NFR, and I'm not Zeke Thurston or Rocker. So I get tossed, I get lawn darted on the 3rd jump, break my finger, rip my pants, and I'm just watching this horse in the arena just buck. And I'm like, oh my dear Lord, like, how am I going to do this? Like, I have 7 days to get these horses, like, to become my herd, right? So that was a really hard part of it. But with patience, with time, I got him to take the pack saddle and trust me. Bruiser, the second horse, really helped because he was just the best. He's my heart horse. Like he was just.
Is he?
Oh yeah, he was. He passed away 2 years ago, which sucks. But yeah, he was one of those horses that knows what you're thinking. And he helped to be like, Frenchie, relax, bro. Like this guy is good. He gives us feed. He doesn't hurt us. And at the end of those 7 days, we were able to start. But yeah, it's funny. I always tell people I didn't pick the horses. It was the horses I was meant to have.
Okay. So this is, to me, I mean, this is so many people who are going to be listening or watching this episode are going to want, like, they're going to have so many questions about the horsemanship side.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you have 2 horses that you start with. And I'm like, really everyone who knows my podcast knows we're going to talk about Bruiser.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you already told me that he was your heart horse.
Yes, ma'am.
But to experience, like a lot of us who have heart horses, we're doing like whatever experience we're having with them, it's powerful. How many kilometers did you do with Bruiser? Like, what was that experience with him?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, that's the best part of the trip. I started with French and Bruiser, and then I was given Dude, a Mustang, in the southern part of the United States. And Frenchie, Bruiser, and Dude are like my kids, an extension of my body, my soul, my heart, my everything. Like, the connection with those animals, because I think, like, in the 21st century, like a lot of people ride horses, they're connected to horses, but there's a disconnect, there's a divide. You put your horse out in the pen and you go to your house. You know what I mean? You see that horse a couple times a week or maybe every day, but you don't sleep next to that horse. You don't eat next to that horse. You don't spend 24 hours a day, literally every day next to those horses. And I got the opportunity to do that for that first ride from Calgary to Brazil. Was 2.5 years with Bruiser, 16,000 kilometers. And living everything you can imagine, like climbing mountains, crossing deserts, like Bruiser colicked in Central America when this farmer gave him corn. I was like, oh my God, he woke up at like 4 a.m. And when I woke up at 6, he was like, I already fed your horses. I was like, what? Like I knew what was happening. And he colicked and luckily we were able to find Benamine and get him good. And he continued on. But yeah, it was so many adventures.
You touched on something that I'm excited that you're already going there. So you talked about the fact that nowadays we have a very different relationship with horses.
Yes, ma'am.
We talk about the history, you know, I think as horse people and as the horse world as a whole, we understand at least a little bit
Yep.
how important horses have been to the formation of human civilization.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Arguably one of the most influential species, relationships,
Tools.
like everything.
It's fire,
right?
horse.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
what changed humanity. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So what you experienced riding across this continent
Yeah.
is something that many of our forefathers and foresisters,
Yeah.
foremothers, but yeah, experienced, and that was like part of our lives, right? Like we had horses that were part of our family.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
know, there's many cultures in which like horses, like Arabians, lived in tents with families,
Yeah.
right? So these are experiences that formed us as
Yes, ma'am.
as human beings. I want you to describe to people what shifts inside you when you are living, breathing, sleeping, eating, and just essentially existing with your horse. You don't put them away in a stall. You don't compartmentalize that part of your life. It's a part of who you are 24/7.
Yeah, I think you kind of become a horse. Like I was very close to munching on grass and and growing a tail. Like you become one of them, you know, you learn, I think, to kind of understand them, the signs. You know, many people say horses don't speak, they do speak, right? But they speak differently, right? And when you analyze a herd, you understand that there is a very special way to communicate, and they communicate amongst themselves. And when you spend that much time around these animals, you start, I think, to pick up those signs and understand how they deal with each other, when they want you close, when they don't want you close, when there's, you know, some kind of fear or something around. Like those 3 horses, they saved my life. Like in Montana, when we ran into a grizzly bear, like they were trying to tell me, as at the beginning of the journey, they were trying to tell me that there was something coming up, and I didn't listen to them because I still wasn't connected to them the same way that I was at the end of the trip. You know what I mean? It's a process. It doesn't happen from the day I left Calgary. It took months, right? Like, and at that first moment when they were like, yo, we need to stop walking because something's gonna come out of the bush there that could kill us. And the idiot on top is just can't see anything. Let's go, let's go, let's go. But they had that sixth sense to smell the bear before I could see it. So they saved my life, and they saved my life many times over. But yeah, I think you just start to understand their language and become a part of them. Like you kind of become a horse in a way. And the other side of that is that when the trip ends, you lose your legs. You become half a man. And it was a very hard period of my life. Like when I ended that first trip, I went into depression, and I think a large part of that was because I didn't know how to be human anymore. I didn't know how to be Filipe anymore.
Did you want to be human?
I don't think I did. I don't think I did.
Because when you talk about, like, because what I'm imagining as you're speaking is I'm imagining a body,
Yeah.
a man in a body that is slowly slowing down
Yeah.
and falling into the rhythm of
100%.
things, right?
And becoming real. Everything's so real. It's hot, it's cold, there's no food, there's no water. You know, there's their shelter, is there bear, is there gunshots? Like everything is so real. As like a horse. That's why I think I love horses so much, because we live in a world today where so many people wear masks, you know what I mean? And like horses are like kids. They're real.
Yeah.
And I value that so much. That was one of the big lessons of this whole thing, you know, like it's not gold, it's not shiny things, it ain't houses, it ain't cars. It's soul and heart. That's all there is to it. It's real. And I think that's horses to me. They're so real, right? And I think you get a little bit of that when you're with them, when you're doing this, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, the price of oil, this and that, and all these
in what what I can imagine life must have felt like riding across not just, I can't even say the country, the continent, is that we now have to practice presence. It's something that is like where you have to fight for.
Yeah.
And presence, I think, and like so many people on this podcast, we've talked about this. Presence is the prerequisite to feeling.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah, like,
but we have to fight for that now.
Yeah,
It's not something given to us. It's not something that we get to just fall into in life.
Yes.
So what you experienced probably is one of the
Yeah.
purest forms of presence you could find outside like a monastery.
100%. It's kind of like it, you know, and that's the other cool thing about horses and horse people, that we, for whatever, an hour, 3 hours a day, you have to be present with that horse. You can't be on your phone texting and riding the horse like you can driving, or, you know, we do so many, we're hyper connected, right? We do 10 things at once. But when you're on the back of a horse, you have to be present.
Yeah.
You got to tell that horse where to go. You know what I mean? It could get dangerous. Like,
Yeah.
and to me, people always ask, like, were you listening to music when you're out there? I'm like, music. Like, I was connected to those animals. There was cars flying by. There was so many things happening that you had to be present at that moment. You know, and it wasn't an hour or 3 hours. It was 8 years. It was like 10 hours or 12 hours a day. And I totally, you know, I totally agree with what you're saying. You know, being present nowadays is so hard, but there's
So
something
hard.
so powerful in that. Like, you know, talk about self-knowledge. Like, I meet so many people today that are on airplane mode. They don't know who they are, what they want, where their X is on the map. And if you don't know where you want to get, how that are you ever going to get there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I always tell people, like, I had a literal X on my map when I left Calgary on that first ride, which was Brazil. If I didn't have that X, I'd be doing laps around Alberta to this day.
Yeah.
And our lives are the same way. But I only discovered like who I really was in those moments where you're kind of in a monastery, like you just said, because it's just you and your thoughts. You know what I mean? And there's something so powerful in that. And people don't do that enough today. Like,
Sit with themselves.
sit with themselves, learn to be with themselves, learn to love themselves, learn who they really are. You know what I mean? And just be your, and be your, live for yourself. And I think that life is such a, like a snap of the fingers, right? This thing like is going to go by so quick. Some people live 100 years and they're going to tell you, man, it was like yesterday I was 18, and not everyone gets there. Right. And
we hear that.
yeah,
But I think until you feel
until you
that,
feel it. Yes, ma'am.
it's really hard to understand when someone says it
Yes, ma'am.
happens so fast.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You talk about, and I can imagine like you're, you know, we don't realize when you were walking a horse.
Yeah.
I think we've come to really take for granted the speed in which life
Yes.
is, right? So I want to get somewhere. I'm going to get in a car.
Yeah.
I can drive, you know, 30 to 50 kilometers an hour to get there.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me the average speed of a horse at a walk is
3 kilometers an hour.
3 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of time if you're walking, because that's the gait that you're going to choose through most of that trip.
Yes,
You're not
ma'am.
trotting or
No.
galloping through
No.
the country.
People always think that. Yeah.
No, yeah. And I imagine that gives you a lot of time to think, and a lot of time to think, like a lot of time to get to know yourself, right?
Yeah.
You just talked about like get to
Yes,
know
ma'am.
yourself. Okay, can you tell me one thing that you learned about yourself? And I'm sure this is a question you get a lot.
Yeah.
What's one thing you learned about yourself that you kind of expected, but what's one thing that you learned about yourself that you didn't expect?
That's a good question. I think one thing that I expected is that like I don't have the ability to quit. You know what I mean? Like, and I knew that just because of the way I was brought up. Like, my dad is an old cowboy, and although at time it may have seemed rough, the lessons he was teaching me and the way and the manner in which those lessons were being taught, it created a very strong human being. You know what I mean? And I kind of figured, I kind of figured before I started this that like either I was gonna get to Brazil in a casket or I wasn't, or I was gonna get there on a horse. But that journey showed me that there were so many moments where I think 99.9% of people would have been like, packed it up and be like,
I know that.
I'm out, like, you know, give you a flight home. And I just kept going, like, and I just kept going. Then I got to Brazil and I kept going to Ushuaia, Argentina. And then I, from Alaska to, I just keep going. And that's something that I think I already knew. Some that I think I learned is that, and I think, you know, it was a reflection, like this is kind of like a therapy, right? Like it was like how fearful I was as a child and how many fears I had and how that fear kept me from doing so many things. Like as a child and growing up, I wasn't able to take that step and face that fear. Like today, one of the big things I talk about when I do my motivational speaking is that, you know, what John Wayne says, you know, courage is being scared half to death, but saddling up anyways. When you look at people that do extraordinary things from the outside, you think they're superhuman. Everyone calls Stetson Wright Superman. He's Superman, he's Superman. But I've talked to him on a real level from man to man, and he feels fear.
Yeah.
When he got injured and got back on his first horse, he told me he's never been so scared in his life. But what makes Stetson Wright, even with that gripping fear, get on that horse and spur it, you know? And that's courage. But what is courage? It's not like this crazy thing that you acquire from like...
It's not this elusive thing.
No, we all have it in us. It's just the ability to, even though you're shaking in your Wranglers, you're going to go into it. And later in life, I was able to do that, obviously. And the greatest experiences I've had in my life have come on the other side of fear. But I often wonder why, as a child, was I not able to face that fear and the effects it still has on me today, you know, which is interesting. But I thought a lot about that while I was riding.
Being afraid.
Just being afraid, and how it just stopped me from doing so much as a child.
You talk about resilience, both publicly, in the documentary. So I imagine that your definition of resilience after 27,000 kilometers is a little bit different than what it was before. How would you define resilience?
That's also a good question. How do I define resilience? I think it's the most special sauce in life. I think resilience is what like allows you to truly live your purpose. I think that we're all tested. Nothing is easy, right? The best things in life
are not
easy. And that's our purpose. Like there's a beautiful line that I love that it's like, our purpose is like a beautiful work of art. If you don't create it, you're going to deprive the world of that.
Ooh.
It's going to die with you. How sad is that?
Yeah.
And I think resilience is that sauce that allows you to create that piece of art, to live that purpose, because oftentimes it's easier to quit. It's easier to walk away. It's easier to just stay in the comfort.
Airplane mode, like you said.
And to be on airplane mode. So to me, that's what resilience is. Resilience is what pushes you to the 110% and allows you to live that purpose.
So for everyone who's listening or watching to this episode and they're like, they heard what you just said and they're like, oh man, like Filipe, like that's me right now. Like I'm not living my purpose.
Yeah.
You and I both know, we know people we love dearly who are not living in their purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
And they don't know where to start. They don't know. They're like, okay, that sounds great, Filipe. Like, what good for you.
Yeah.
But how do I find my purpose? How do I start to, form my work of art?
Yes, ma'am.
What would you tell them?
I would tell them to connect to themselves. Number one, like we talked about, find times, find periods to be alone. You know, I talk to people all the time. I do talks for like 5,000 people. And I ask this question: how many days in this past year, 365 days, did you spend alone? And you'll get like, out of 5,000 people, 10 hands. And then I say, out of those 10 people, did you have a phone and internet? And everyone did. So you're not alone.
You're not alone.
So I think that that's a big thing. I think that people are lost because, like, again, they're hyper connected. There's so much information. There's so much going on that you have no time to find out what's going on here and connect yourself. And we need to be connected to the earth. Like, everything is energy. Energy is moving, and you need to have your feet on the ground. You know, you need to know where your roots are. You need to spirituality. Like, I don't think God is the same for everybody, but I was an atheist before this trip, and I found God in this journey. And to me, God is nature. To me, God is the wind blowing on my horse's mane. To me, God is a beautiful sunset. To me, God is meeting that beautiful woman on this ride. But, you know, that spirituality keeps me grounded. That spirituality allows me to have faith and know that, okay, I didn't get hit by these gunshots. I'm alive. And guess what? It's written by the same hand. I'm going to get through this. And if not, this is how it was meant to end. You know, when you have that, when you realize that we're a grain of salt and there's so much more and everything's connected, I think it allows you to see life with different lenses and connect to yourself. I think that's the biggest thing, you know, like, find these moments to think, to kind of like draw a map of like where you want to get. And the other thing is, sometimes people think like purpose is this big thing. You got to ride the Americas. You got to like, you're in a gold buckle.
You're not living your purpose unless
that's
not
it, man. Like, it's having an X, and we have different seasons of our lives, and we're going to have many purposes and many X's, and just find one to trace right now. Like, find one, You know, give your carrot. You need a carrot in front of that horse, right? What's going to make you wake up in the morning, and what's going to make you give 110%? It's easy to give 110% when everything is great and things are doing good. But how about when you're broke? How about when you got to fight with your spouse? How about when one of your kids is sick? Like, what's going to make you just bear down and go at it? And to me, it's that X, knowing that, okay, I'm going towards something. I have a goal and I need to get there, you know? And so, yeah, I think we just need more spirituality and more, you know, connection to ourselves.
When you talked about being connected to the earth,
Yes, ma'am.
you reminded me of a woman I met who does not drive a car.
No
She
way.
bikes everywhere.
Nice.
And she actually has a bike trailer for her other bike, right?
That is epic. Why does she need to have two bikes?
Because there's one bike that she wanted to like have recreationally, and then one that was her transport bike, right?
I want to meet this lady.
Yeah, she was fascinating.
She is the real deal. What's her name?
She told me there's something really powerful. She said to me, well, I like fell upon her like in the mountains. We were hiking and she was riding her recreational bike.
Pulling her second bike.
Pulling her second bike.
That's awesome.
And she said to me something that I will never forget. Okay. She said, because we got talking and I was like, okay, wait, you don't drive? She said, absolutely not. And she actually she's like, I walk barefoot every opportunity I can.
Wow. I
don't believe in shoes unless I absolutely have to wear them, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. This woman is so unique and so exceptional. And she said something to me that I'll never forget. She said, we throw children in cars, we zip them around in planes, we fly up and down on elevators, we live 26 floors up in the air, and we ask our children to be grounded.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I was like standing there. It just made, you know what I mean? Like when, you know, and the truth sounds true.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was like, it just gave me like full body chills because I was like, that's right.
Yeah.
But not only, and it made me think, like, not only do we ask our children to be grounded while experiencing all of that, but we ask ourselves to be grounded.
I know.
And so when I imagine you walking, because I'm sure you walked next to your horses, not just rode.
Yes, yeah.
Right? And that's such a, like, I want to dive into that because that's something that, again, we don't do a lot anymore. Like the horse world now, once we made that transition from our military relationship with horses or our working relationship with horses to our sport or our more like recreational relationship with horses. And I've had such amazing, profound conversations with cowboys about this or historians of the sport or historians of the horse. We stopped walking with them. We stopped you know, we just get on their back and we ride, right? And that's what we're supposed to do, right? And so it makes me think like walking next to your horse for thousands of kilometers, it must have this incredibly grounding impact on your biology.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
100%. It's funny you say that because like in Mexico, it's such a macho culture. Like Mexico is my favorite country to cross. I don't want this to sound negative because it was like unbelievable. One day 1,000 people rode with me. I saw like
that's amazing.
It was crazy. And like they celebrated my journey so much because they love the horse so much. But it's a macho culture, right? Just like Brazil. And they would hate it when I walked next to the horses. Like if we got to a town or something, they'd be like, get on your horse. Like the people are watching. And I'm like, no, I walk 5 kilometers a day. Like that's what I do every day. And I don't care where I am, I'm going to do it. Like you don't have to be embarrassed to walk next to your horse. And it's exactly what he's saying, right? There's this idea that it's like, why is this idiot walking if he has a horse? But there's something so powerful and beautiful about that. You know, there's something so like democratic about like being like, hey, if you're walking,
relational.
And relational. Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Like my horsemanship changed when I met a mare, when a mare came into my life that I could not build a relationship with on her back. I had to build a relationship with her. She had so much trauma. All of the relationship building I had to do in the first 6 months was on the ground.
Wow.
And it took, I had such a hit to my ego.
Wow.
Right? Because I'm like, oh, I'm going to be one of those women that's just paffing around with your horse, you know? And that was the inner narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And that's this really toxic
narrative
we have in our world of you're not riding unless you're on the back of a horse.
Exactly.
Unless you're doing.
Exactly.
Right? And so something you just said that really, I've never asked anyone in this podcast this question, but I really want to ask you this question.
Now I'm scared.
You should be, because it's a big one.
Oh, damn.
Okay. Do you think that we can love horses while also objectifying them?
Wow. You gonna throw that on me? I'm the first one.
But you rode 20. If there's one person in the horse world that I think can answer that question,
Okay,
at
go
least-
go further
at
into
least-
that question. Explain to
least-
me what you mean.
So, and let's go in this together because I don't
Okay.
have an answer to this question.
Okay.
Okay. So this idea that this is something I've done a ton of exploration on because I realized in my own journey how much when we objectify horses, we objectify them because we objectify ourselves.
Yep.
Okay. The horse world is just as afflicted with the commercialization of this thing that cannot be commercialized.
Yeah.
Right? We throw on slogans and we talk about
Yeah.
the bond between horses and humans, right? But then we commercialize it all the time.
Yeah.
When I realize something that is complex, it's as complex as the human experience, especially now, which is, can we love horses while objectifying them? Because it's something that you explained to me. The reason why I asked that is because it's something about when you said that you love Mexico, and when you were in that country and you rode across, you're like, they love the horse.
Yeah.
But they also didn't want you to ride next to the horse.
Walk next to the horse.
Walk next to the horse. They wanted you to ride the horse.
Yeah.
And so it's this really complex,
It's very complex.
right? Human relationship that and I want to know what comes up for you. And you don't even have to answer it because I think it's a big question. It's a question that we should all sit with is, can I love my horse while also objectifying my horse?
Yeah, I think to answer your question, I think, I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer, but to me, it's what is the intent?
Okay, before we get back into the conversation, I want to share something that has genuinely changed the way I feed my horses. One of my horses, Lady, who I talk a lot about on this podcast and who some of you know, is a sassy Appaloosa and a notoriously picky eater. She does not like feed with a lot of fillers or chemicals. She is sensitive in every way, including her skin, which has always made feeding her a careful process. She lets me know quickly when something does not agree with her. Finding a feed that she would eat consistently and that supports her overall well-being has mattered more to me than anything else. Total Equine by Total Feeds has been that feed. When I first tried Total Equine, I was super skeptical. It looks more like kibble than pellets, and I judged the look of it right away. Also, it's affordable. And as someone who's grown up deep in the competitive world of show jumping, I immediately interpret quality with price. Nothing in the horse world can be both good quality and affordable, right? Well, wrong. My horses have never looked better, and they love it. Thanks to important trace minerals like copper, zinc, and selenium, Lady's digestion is steadier than ever. Her weight is great, her coat quality improved measurably, and her top line has stayed intact, even with time off after our epic road trip across the country. That alone would have been enough to earn my trust. But that trust was tested in a big way when we took Lady and Galano across the country. Traveling over 25,000 miles with your horses demands consistency and nutritional integrity to balance the stress and demands of the road. Having a feed I could rely on no matter what made a huge difference. Total Equine kept both my horses nourished and settled through long hauls, new environments, and constant change. They are one of the only horse feeds in the industry to use Norwegian kelp, providing essential iodine, minerals, prebiotics, and thyroid support. I cannot say enough good things about Total Equine by Total Feeds. Developed by Dr. Harry Anderson, who I now consider a friend and ally in the fight for good horse care in this time of inflated prices and impossible economics in the horse world. I am careful about what I recommend, especially when it comes to nutrition. I've never spoken publicly about horse feed before, and I am proud to speak up now. Total Feeds has earned its place in my barn because it supports my horses in a way that is noticeable, measurable, and reliable. If you want to learn more about their approach to feeding, visit totalfeeds.com or pick up a bag at your local Tractor Supply.
Because I think it's a big question. It's a question that we should all sit with is,
Yeah.
can I love my horse while also objectifying my horse?
Yeah, I think to answer your question, I think, I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer, but to me, it's what is the intent?
Yeah.
What is in your heart?
Yeah.
How do you treat that animal? You know what I mean?
Totally.
I think that's what it comes down to. Like, you know, what's in your heart? Like, and I think,
And what's really in your heart?
and what's
Be
really in
honest
your
with
heart.
yourself.
Exactly. What's really in your heart, and why are you doing this, right? Like, is it to win prizes and ribbons, or is it because of the horse? Because that's another interesting thing, right? Like, why are we jumping these horses? Why are we roping? Why are we, like, you know, some people, you see them very quickly and you know it's for the money, the prize, the gold, and others you see that it's for the horse. You know what I mean? So that's an interesting question as well. And I think you have, you know, a bit of both in all the disciplines.
Yeah.
And how hard do you push that animal?
Yeah.
You know, like, are you willing to put their health in front of, you know, how much you love these animals? Like,
Well, that's a decision you must have come across, because did you think that you were going to do 27,000 kilometers with 2 horses?
no, I was just gonna ride from Canada to Brazil. I never thought I was gonna do the other trips.
So,
But, and yeah, the idea was that
You know what I
first
mean?
trip from
Because
Canada
you
to
did
Brazil.
11,
Yes,
you
I
had-
would do all of them. But what I did is so much more natural than any of the equestrian sports we have.
yeah, I agree.
It's what horses do. They walk 20 to 30 miles a day to go get water. And those horses, Frenchie is 27 years old, go feel his legs.
I'm sure they're so healthy, those horses.
Yeah. And it's like, and what I see in other disciplines is not that.
This is something that I've said before, and this is why this podcast exists, is because we must be allowed to ask the questions.
Yeah, we need to
And
talk about it.
Everybody that lives life with horses, I think if we think too black and white, it's, you know, like, that's, I think, where like the music and the magic of life like dies, right? If it's like, oh, everything we do is absolutely okay, or everything we do is absolutely not okay.
Yeah.
It's like, there's, I think, reality in life in the gray. And I think it's important and healthy to ask these questions. Like,
And
where does our love and where does our ego?
It's a hard question. When I was out there warming up my horses in the round pen and making them do things that I very quickly realized was not natural for them, it didn't become fun anymore. Whereas when I was out there with those horses chasing kilometers and it was so natural, my heart was full. There was never a little voice in the back of my mind saying, man, this horse is not doing this naturally. Like, that horse is not supposed to be collected like that. That horse is not supposed to be jumping like that. That horse is not supposed to be doing that. We're forcing it to do that. Correct?
Correct.
But when you do what I did, you're not forcing them to do anything. We're just walking and having fun. And every day we're drinking water out of different trough, meeting different horses. So that's what I think ultimately, and I maybe never even thought about this before, that's what kind of made me do this in a way, right? Being so involved with horses and doing laps around the round pen and making that horse sit on its ass and start backing up. And as soon as it gets to the calf, you want it to take a step forward and wait for you to finish tying. And it's so complex, the things we ask it, right? And it's not natural when it comes down to it. It's like the most unnatural thing ever for all of these horses to do. They're like, why is he making me do this? Like, I was not born to do this. Like, this is not in my DNA.
Well, and this is something, like, I think is really, I've had really wonderful vets, you know, and I think it's something important to acknowledge, is that, like, a horse carrying a human is not a natural thing, but we build them up, and if you're responsible about it, then you create an athlete that can carry our weight really easily.
Yes, ma'am.
And can do these amazing things, right? But, like, it's not I don't think anyone would say it's like an inherently natural, like, yeah, just jump on my back and my body can totally take the movement and the dynamic of your body on top of my body.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that's a humongous part of our history is the man on top of a horse.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think that it's like this, but what I love about what you just explained is that I think there's a lot of people listening to this podcast who are, and I know you've heard this before, just trail riders.
Yeah.
So they're basically doing like a pin drop of what you did.
Yes, ma'am.
For 8 years.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people out there who really just want to trail ride.
Yeah, 100%.
And yet I would say that they're doing more for, like, they're doing a lot for their horse and for themselves.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk to them directly right now.
Yeah.
Because I think I've heard more and especially women say to me, oh, Noelle, like, I'm talking to them if they're listeners of the podcast or they're members of our online education platform or whatever. And they're like, oh, Noelle, I'm just a trail rider. And I was like, wow, like the level of like disregard for your way of life or the way that you ride horses. It's like, and it's very present in our culture. Oh, I just trail ride.
Yeah.
I don't compete or I don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I want you, with all the experience, the super unique experience you've had.
Yeah.
I want you to talk to them directly. What would you say to them if you heard them say that right now?
Well, I'd say that's awesome. I don't judge. I think the problem we have in our world is we all judge each other. It's like, oh, she's just a trail rider. Well, I rope calves. That guy cuts. I jump. And we're all talking about the same thing, but we're all against each other.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, and that's going to be the message at the end of this deal here, it's like, just do you and be yourself. And if your heart is full and you're treating your horse well, props. If you're not, I don't care what you do. You could be trail riding, you could be roping, you could be whatever, doing dressage. If you're not treating that animal well and you're not happy, something's wrong. You know what I mean? So I that doesn't bother me. I think that's good.
Well, no, but
Just
like
trail riding,
more
that's awesome.
even than it doesn't bother me. But like to me, I hear you. Like I hear talking about how natural riding through the forest, through the plains, through the desert. And that's what people are doing when they're trail riding. I think they're wanting to connect to what you experience.
100%. And they just want to have an experience with that animal. They love that animal, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And they want to have a connection with that, just like someone that's going to go and, compete. Like, it's the same thing. You're having an experience with that animal. And some people are, I think, moved to compete. They're born that way. They like the adrenaline.
Oh, and I mean, I feel like you and I are the same. Like, I love being in the arena, being pushed and pressured. Like, that feeling is very addictive.
Yeah, I think it's addictive, and some people are born that, and some people aren't, right? And again, there's seasons in life. Sometimes you may start competing and end up trail riding, or start trail riding and end up competing. But I just don't think there's rules. I think we make too many rules, or we set too many rules. It's like, and that's what turns me off a little bit. Like, just the rules. Like, you need to ride this saddle pad. That saddle's wrong.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You're shoeing your horse wrong. Like, you shouldn't give him water after. You know what I mean? Like, if it works for you, like, that's awesome, man. That's so cool. Like, I'll give you an example. I got to Calgary after riding 27,000 kilometers, and on my last day, I stayed at a barn, and I make my own saddle pads when I go on long rides.
Yeah.
Because I learned from experience, not from a book or a movie, that the foam pad is the best thing not to sore a horse's back. And on my last day of an 8-year ride, this guy that owned the barn told me I was using the wrong saddle.
You're kidding.
That's why I had such a thick saddle pad. And to me, that's like, man, have humility. Like, humility is key and is everything. Like, but yeah,
that's not interesting.
But that's,
and was that true? Were you riding in the wrong saddle?
No, I just
used a
thick saddle pad.
It was his
You saw the size of my saddle pad,
yeah.
right? But this guy had never ridden more than 5 kilometers on a horse.
Yeah.
He was probably good at whatever he did, which I don't know what the barn was.
But it's amazing how it's unbelievable the soapboxes that we all stand on, saying like, oh no, don't do this and don't do that, and don't ride in this and don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
That's why I go back to, like,
you're like, I just did 27,000 miles, buddy. But I think I know a thing or two.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's like me trying to tell Shad Mayfield how to rope a calf. Like, hey, come here, man, let me show you. You roped that calf wrong. Like, you know what I mean? It's working for him. He works his way. They're all, everyone's different, but
that's something you just touch on. Like, that's something that I've explained to people outside the horse world. I said, I don't know any other sport in which you'll be watching the Olympic Games and the person sitting next to you will be like, oh no, I should have done four in that line. Oh my God, I can't believe that you took the inside line. And you're like, dude, it's the Olympics and they're at the Olympics. You're not at the Olympics.
You're on the couch.
Like, you know what I mean? But it's the only sport I know.
Yeah,
like, I don't think anyone's like watching ice hockey going, buddy.
Yeah, come on.
Maybe they are.
Come on, Sidney Crosby. Like, play better.
Right?
I know.
I feel like we have this little bit of like, oh, I could do better.
It's very opinionated, right? It was just funny. But yeah, I just laugh at that and
like, I love how you say just like a little humility.
Yeah, no,
like a little bit of humility, a little bit of humility goes a long way.
Yeah, and that was a big lesson from this journey as well. Like, I think if you don't have humility, like, you don't do what I did, and you got to go in people's homes and you got to ask for help and you got to have the empathy to understand that you got to talk to people differently, and enter places differently and carry yourself differently and kind of be a little bit of a chameleon. But I value that so much that to me now, and I'm 39 years old. I feel like I'm 100 based on like my life, but that's something number one to me. Like, if you want to make me happy, show me humility. Like, when people come up to me with humility, like, that's my dog. Like, I was like, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna be good. But when people come up to you and they think they know some or that, it's like, just turns me off so much. Like, I don't like that.
Okay, let's talk about Bruiser.
Yes.
Because when I meet someone and they immediately tell me who their heart horse is, I'm like, okay, that's all I want to talk about. Because I think, why? I'm curious, because you're such an introspective person.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think that's it's hard to talk about Bruiser. I just wish that horse would live forever, When I went to start the trip, I was very scared, like it's one thing to talk about it and write it down and like, but when you get there and you meet the horses and you realize like, this is gonna be crazy. Like, I'm going to war, like, and Frenchie being so like wild, and Bruiser was, from the first moment I met him, he was my rock. And in his eyes and his like calm demeanor, he just helped me a lot, It was like he was just born for this, right? And he was meant to come into my life, and he just made me like the person I am today.
I think what's powerful about talking about heart horses is because I share serving in the here, and like watching her get emotional about talking about Stingray. Like, I feel like this is a universal feeling.
Yes, ma'am.
We all have these horses that have touched us in a way that's like so hard to describe without emotion.
Yeah.
Because and I think what you just said, like, is actually one of the best ways that I could describe what having a heart horse in your life feels like, which is like, I feel like God put that horse on the earth for me.
Yeah.
And then what a humbling experience that is.
Yeah.
To be like, one, what a gift.
Yeah.
Two, what a responsibility.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when I feel, it's not like I can hear you, I can feel how much you love that horse.
Yeah.
It's one of the most like earth-shattering experiences to have a horse that touches you.
Yes, ma'am.
In a way that, like, I would say, like, having a hard horse and moving through the world and having an experience like what you had with Bruiser, I feel like you get to a place that you almost can't, like, I don't know if we can get to those places with people.
I totally agree. I totally agree. There's something like it's something powerful about a horse, right? I don't know if it's their size, people talk about, like, how if you spend a lot of time near horses, they're so calm, and that like transcends to us, and like there's a magnetic field, right? Like they can synchronize their hearts in the wild, like, and that obviously they synchronize their hearts with us, and like there's something so powerful with that, and they're like angels to me, like I don't know, but and it's the feeling, like I described it to a friend once as well. It's like, to describe it, it's almost like you've known that being from somewhere else.
Yes.
It's like, I've lived with this thing, whether he was a horse before or a person, like we have done something before together, you know what I mean? Like, that's the feeling. Like, I know you, I've known you from somewhere, like that's what I felt.
Do you feel like it's almost like the antithesis of what life is like now? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, to experience that in the 21st century, I think plucks from a different time.
Yeah, 100%.
And
that's why I love I love this world, like, because people are different. You feel the energy is different, like the values are different, the beliefs are different. It is like going back. I would imagine, I wasn't alive 100 years ago, but it seems like it's different because, like, again, going back to the reality of what's real and what's fake. You know what I mean? Like, real is feed your horse, water your horse. Like, everything's okay? Like, everyone's healthy. These things, these side things that just keep like taking your attention away, these shiny things, that, like you said, people totally disconnected, living in apartments, driving cars, flying in planes, like not connected to the earth. And then you go to a ranch and you go to people that ride horses, regardless of the of what they do with those horses, but the vibes are different. The people are built different, and I love it. And I think right now we're seeing a resurgence of that,
Yeah.
right? With so many outsiders wanting to come into this world, like looking for it, because like it's kind of like, it's funny, someone said this to me the other day, but like being a cowboy or riding a horse now, which back in the day was so normal, was the norm. Now it's like you're like a renegade in this world you live in, right? Like if you're and that, you know, and I think people are chasing that feeling, like, because life has become empty in so many ways. Like I've met so many broken people that were surrounded by things, but inside they were broken, you know, and no matter how many things they get, they will never be full. And sometimes, you know, on my ride, I would meet people that had very little things, but were so full spiritually and emotionally. And, you know, and I think a big part of that was the fact that they were living connected to the earth. They had time to spend with their family. They weren't, you know, being distracted by all this white noise that we have everywhere.
Truth. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, you travel around the world as a motivational speaker talking about leadership.
Yes, ma'am.
How does leadership change for you after this experience?
Oh, I was a terrible leader at the beginning of the trip, you know? I think that's
Why? You say
why,
that.
because I didn't listen to my team. I thought I knew everything. I'm the human, I'm the leader. Y'all are horses, you do what I say. And I very quickly got kicked in the face and realized that that's the worst trait a leader can have. You know what I mean? We go back to what I said, humility, empathy. That's what makes a good leader. You know what I mean? You know, number one, you don't know everything, and there are going to be people in your team that know way more than you, and you need to listen to them, and you need to understand that, and you need to say, have the humility to accept that. And yeah, I talked to a lot of teams and leaders about that, and it's very interesting because my team had, you know, tails, and theirs or whatever, you know, Coca-Cola, and they got large teams underneath them, but there's so many parallels.
Yeah.
There's so many parallels. And I think for them, you know, it's like you have to know what everyone is going through. You know, people don't just go in that office. They have a whole life outside of that. And, you know, you can't expect Carl to give 110% when maybe his wife's got cancer, and you don't know that. You know what I mean? You need to understand that and treat him differently. And I think that that's what it was with my horses, you know. And
How did your horses teach you that?
my horses taught me that, you know, I think the first time was when we saw that bear on the side of the road. I think they taught me that every single day. You know, horses, they don't all wake up ready to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes Frenchie didn't want to carry the pack that day. Sometimes Bruiser didn't want to go. Sometimes they wanted to stay an extra day. Sometimes they wanted to eat a little more. Sometimes they, you know, and so it was just feeling them. Like I said, learning their language, learning to feel them, learning to kind of understand what they're trying to tell you and why, and not just, you know, guess, which we try to do a lot of time and say, oh, he's doing that because of that. Is he? Did you spend the time out there? Like, have you sat there for 3 hours watching him? You know, like, so I think that was important. And on the last trip, because the hardest part about what I did was crossing the borders.
Yeah.
So the first trip from Canada to Brazil, I do the same horses. So
Yeah.
in Central America, I'm befriending drug lords. I'm crossing illegally. It's a mess. I get stuck. I can't go into Panama. You saw the documentary. The trip's going to end. What's going to happen? So when I finished that trip, I decided I'm retiring the boys because they deserved it, obviously. And then I do each country with its own horse. And on the last trip from Alaska to Calgary, I rode 2 wild horses. And that was the hardest experience ever because one of them, Smokey the Gray, like I literally like met him. We cut him. I put 2 weeks on him, and we hauled him to Alaska and started the ride.
Wow.
And it took me like until I arrived in Calgary to connect with that horse.
Wow.
And that horse taught me so much because I didn't give him the time he needed to get ready for this trip. I pushed him way harder than I should have pushed, and it was totally my fault. And looking back now, I think what an idiot I was to do that. But luckily everything worked out. And he, at the beginning, he was like insane. Like just the thought of riding him just riding him was crazy. And when I got to Calgary, it was a really cool moment that Clara, my wife now, rode him into the city with me. I was riding Mac, the other horse. And I was just like, to be there on Mac, watching this gray carry her so gracefully through this major city with cars and buses, and just be so proud of him and say, man, look how far we've come. Like, you know what I mean? Like a year and a half ago, like it wouldn't even, like, you couldn't even imagine this. And yeah, that was a very telling and an experience that taught me a lot.
At the beginning of the podcast, you touched on how kind of wheels came off when you finished.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I talk about that openly today because as a cowboy, we're taught from a very young age not to show vulnerability. You know, you cowboy up. You see these guys here, like, you know, Kai Hamilton a couple years ago in 2023, he won his world championship, his first one. And like one day, a bull pulled him up and he just smacked his head against that bull, unconscious, just falls, looks like he's dead. He's in the arena, unresponsive. The whole place, you could hear a pin drop. You went into the Thomas Mack. I've never heard it so quiet.
Wow.
They get him out. He goes to the hospital. He's in there all night. The next day, there's video of this. He's wearing his hospital gown. They go and pick him up. He opens the door and says, let's go win a championship. That day, he had to ride 2 bulls because there was a shooting here that year. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
So instead of doing 10 rounds at the NFR, they did 10 rounds, but one of the days they had 2 rounds because the first day was canceled because they had shut down the Thomas and Mack Center. So that was the day he came back. So he went straight from the hospital to the Thomas and Mack. An hour later, gets on a bull, rides that bull that night, rides another bull, becomes a world champion. But that is the mentality.
Yes. Yeah.
But
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse. It's got great things about it. Like I said, my inability to quit comes from that.
Yeah.
But my inability to show vulnerability, to talk about things, is also very bad and very dangerous. And when I finished that trip, you know, like I had symptoms of PTSD. Like I saw people shot dead. I thought I was gonna die. My horses didn't have water. Like a lot of anxiety that goes into all of this.
Yeah.
Which is literally like going to war. You don't know if you're gonna survive, what's around the next bend. And the other part of it was what I said, the disconnect. You know, one day you're part of the herd, the next you're not. You're not chasing kilometers anymore. Life has changed. Everything is dull. Colors aren't the same. The adrenaline's obviously not there. It becomes addictive. And I got, you know, worst 6 months of my life, anxiety, nightmares, depression. Never thought I'd feel depression. And I talk about it because I harbored it in. I started drinking. One day I got in my truck, almost died, crashed the truck, because I couldn't talk to anybody. I was embarrassed. I'm like, how am I just crossed the Americas, like on horseback.
You made a like you
these guys raised a statue of me. Like, how am I going to talk to people that I'm feeling depression? Like,
you're like etched in history, and you like
I couldn't open up, and I realized I could have died. Like I could have done some really bad things, and you know, my documentary, I made a point to put it in there, and my talks, I make a point to talk about it, and no one. You know, a lot of people come to me to talk about all the horses are so beautiful. I love the trip, but all the festivals we went to, all the talks I do, out of 10 people, 8 come to talk to me about depression.
Yeah.
Whether they're going through it, they've gone through it, their kids are going through it. And I think that's one of the biggest obstacles we have in the 21st century. You know, depression is gripping. It's hard to understand because I broke my leg. Oh, there's a cast. She broke her leg. I can see that. But when someone tells you, I'm going through this, a lot of times people just laugh it off. Like, man, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Because you can't see it, right? Yeah. So, but it's real. I felt it. I never imagined I would feel it. And yeah, it was a real hard moment in my life. And that's what ultimately, you know, I like I said, this journey taught me that God exists. I believe everything's written by the same hand. And in the middle of that turmoil, I thought my trips were over. And when I didn't realize that, I was just in a transitional moment of my life. And my trips weren't over. And I went to do a talk at a children's cancer hospital in Brazil. And I met these kids that were like fighting for their lives. Like and they were just like with a smile on their face. And I was like, God shook me at that moment. I was like, what? And learned that they needed so much money every month to run the place. And a light went off. I'm like, what can I do? Like, how do I? I'm like, I can go another ride. I can raise money. Where can I go? Open Google Maps, Ushuaia, furthest point in the Americas.
Yeah.
And I just went, and it was just like instinct. And that ride ultimately, like, made Filipe whole again, and I met Claire on the trip, and that was a huge part of it. And when I got to the end of that ride, I was back to the Filipe that had started that journey in Calgary.
I'm really glad you talk about the invisible boogeyman of what depression is.
Yes,
because
ma'am.
it's like it is invisible.
It's invisible.
What did you do when you talk about how you became whole? How have you integrated what you learned about how to stay connected to nature, stay connected to, like I call her mother, how we connect to the source of all things?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you do that? Because here we are,
Yeah.
you and I both flew into Vegas.
Yes, ma'am.
Ripping around.
Yeah.
This is far, 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 far away from, nature. We're
Yes,
in
ma'am.
huge buildings with so much infrastructure.
Yeah.
How do you come back to what is true and what is centered as a person that has experienced that connection?
It's very simple for me. I don't know. I don't think it's the same for everybody, but I go up to a horse and I go to the side their mane's on. I open it like a curtain. I stick my nose and I smush it into their fur and I breathe as hard as I can. And ultimately that's it. I realize that I need to be around horses, and it's just, I feel like half a man when I'm not around them. And it's very important to me. And that's why I was doing all these talks and my life kicked off. I'm very lucky, very blessed. I get to speak to huge companies, travel the world. But again, 2 years ago, I found myself not doing that well, just because I was tired. I was on flights every day and not riding as much as I wanted to. So I took a step back.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm not a millionaire, so I need to work. This is my job.
Yeah, right.
Right. So what can I do that's going to make me ride horses and I'm going to get a paycheck? So I started guiding rides. So now every year I do 5 or 6 rides where I know that for those 2 weeks or a month, I'm going to be on horseback every day in the mountains, riding, doing what I love. And that is my recharge. And then I go back and go do the talks and go to Vegas with the lights and the deal and this and that. But then I know, hey, guess what? In a month, I'm going to be back in the saddle and I'm going to be back smelling manes and fur. And that's what keeps me whole. And I think that again, going back to that, if I didn't have self-knowledge, I wouldn't know that. You can't just push the problem under the rug. You can't just, take the medication and cut it for that second. You have to find out, what is the source of the pain? Why am I feeling this pain? How do I fix it? So why am I unhappy? You know what I mean? How do I fix this? I need to ride horses. And for some people, it might be riding bikes. Maybe it's, spending more time with the family, whatever it is. Right. So I think once you take that time to find out what it is, what makes you happy, what makes your heart beat, and then strategic planning. I talk about it all the time. Nothing falls from the sky. It's not just figuring out, oh, I love horses. Great. Well, how am I going to get paid to ride the horses?
Right.
Because a lot of people will say to me oh man, when my story goes big and whatever, the BBC, Fox, whoever posts it, and there's 10 million comments and 9,999 is always well, if I was rich, that's all I would do as well, right? People think things are easy from the outside, right?
Always.
And it's not. But if you plan it, I was not meant to be here. I'm from a small town in Brazil of 20,000 people. My parents aren't rich. I went to university because I got a scholarship. If I'm here today, it's a testament that if you want it bad enough, if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to plan, absolutely nothing is impossible. You are the creator of your existence. So don't come cry and bitch to me. I always tell people you can give excuses to anybody else on earth, but not me. You look me in the eyes and say, oh, it's because my horse is not good enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. And I'll look you in the eyes and say, bullshit. Bullshit. If you want it, go get it.
I'm just gonna let that sit. That's powerful.
It's just normal. It's just life. Talk to anyone that's ever done anything.
Yep.
But then you talk to people that, like you said, the couch people that are talking bad about the Olympic riders.
Yep.
And they'll tell you, oh, it's because I don't have enough money. Oh, it's because my mom wasn't connected. Oh, it's because John Douch shouldn't be here right now roping. He's about to win the average. He went to a Joe B clinic. Joe B looked at him and said, come over here. Why did he do that? Because John Douch had a hunger in his eyes that Joe B saw.
Yeah.
And now he's here.
And now he's
right. And how many aren't here, but are at home right now being like, well,
Making
if
excuses.
making excuses.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Preach. Okay. Damn. Okay. I end every episode with the same series of questions that I'm really excited to hear your
Okay, cool.
answers.
And I just throw one answer, or one word, or any?
You can think about it. I mean,
No,
everyone
no,
has-
but is it like a one-word answer, or could it
Yeah.
be several words?
it can be several.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's no rules. Like I would
Okay.
say they're rapid fire, but no one rapidly answers them.
Oh, damn.
There's
It's gonna be deep.
okay.
We're going deep.
We're going deep.
All right.
If you could read one book to the horse world, what would it be?
Chifley's Ride.
Okay, that was easy.
Yeah.
Who is the most iconic horse in history?
Mancha.
Who?
So just some Chifley's Ride is a book that my dad used to read to me as a kid about a Swiss school teacher. His name's Aim Chifley. He rode horseback from Buenos Aires to New York in 1925.
Wow.
And he rode 2 Criollo horses called Mancha and Gato. So that they were my heroes, right? So I would dream, and Mancha is so cool because Mancha means spots, like, or spotted, and this horse was just like a paint, but not a paint because they're Criollos, but yeah. So to me, that was always my dream horse, like this big, beautiful paint, like, so Mancha, yeah.
Most undervalued skill as a rider?
That's a tough question. I would say body positioning.
Yeah?
I think that's a skill, and I think
Yeah.
I see a lot of people that aren't using that skill well enough, and I feel bad for the horses sometimes.
I like that answer. Accountability for your own body and your own balance. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Big one. Who is the greatest horseman or horsewoman in history?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Oh, man.
Take your time.
Just one?
Most people, it takes a minute.
And like, okay, there's no rules, so it could be in anything.
Could be anything. And it's your answer, so it's not wrong.
I'm going to say Roy Cooper, the super looper, just passed away. Rest in peace, Roy. He's a very special man. He was special in my life, and he revolutionized the sport of tie-down roping, you know, calf roping. That's what I grew up doing. I love the sport, so I'm going to go with, yeah, the super looper.
I love it. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
Mares, stallions, or geldings?
Ooh, geldings all day. Let's go.
Okay, why?
Because I've ridden mares, and I don't like surprises. They're like, oh no, here we go. There are no studs anywhere near. Shut up. It's like, we have to ride 20 miles today. You realize that as she's running around the freaking pasture. Yeah, mares are tough. I rode mares on my second trip, and yeah, it was just, they were like, one day they were loving me, the next day they were biting me. So I like studs, don't get me wrong, but a lot of work. You know, you gotta have their own place, and just a lot of work. And geldings, it's just, you know what you're gonna get. Every day is the same thing.
And Bruiser was a gelding.
And Bruiser was a gelding.
We love you, Bruiser.
We love you, Bruiser.
Filipe, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome. Thanks for the cup. Can I take this?
Of course, it's yours.
Let's go. It's beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.